So in high school, many moons ago, there was one day we had a test, and I imagine it was in math because I excelled in math. It was my favorite subject. And I got a 98 on the test. And everyone else in the class, I think, scored somewhere in the 70s. So it was a big deal for the teacher, and she brought me up front, and she gave me my paper, and she said, "This is excellent, really excellent," and she had me say something about how I mastered these mathematical principles and things like that, and that was, just a wonderful, wonderful day. So I ran home and wanted to tell my parents about it, and I showed it to my mom, and she said, "Oh my goodness, this is great, congratulations, I know you love math." And I showed it to my dad. I was all excited. I was waiting for him to come home. And I said, "Dad, look at my test. I got a 98. And he looked at it, and he was quiet. And he said, "What happened to the other 2 points?" If you get a 98, certainly you could have gotten 100. And he put the paper down and he walked away. So what I heard as a teenager was that you're not good enough no matter what you do. That is not what he was saying, but that's what I heard with my young ears. So I picked up the sails he ripped off of my boat and dragged that story and those sails decades into my life. I was probably 50-something, 60 now, when I finally decided I will not tell that story out loud again. Well, except for here. Because sometimes when you hear your stories over and over again, at some point, you will get to a point where you are sick of hearing it yourself. And I think that's when you're in a space where your soul is telling you it is time to move on. Drop the story. You know when you think your own story is pathetic, that it's time to shift. It's time to shift. And I decided, and I didn't say it out loud again. I think I may have told it once here before. We were talking about something else. But at some point, we have to be willing, well, not have to. At some point, if you are willing to let it go, you have an opportunity to move somewhere else, into a new story. We talked about this in our group, Rewriting Your Story, last year. And now we're encountering this again in our Wednesday night class as we're reading Discover the Power Within You by Eric Butterworth. So in the last couple of chapters, this is what stood out for me. You can overcome, you can succeed, you can be healed if you believe in your divinity, bless it, act as if it were the real and true of you, and keep on in the effort to, quote, open out a way whence the imprisoned splendor may escape, end quote. Butterworth goes further and says, the potential for wholeness is forever with him and within him. Thus, help and healing are not dependent upon some special act or will of God. There's no one that can give it to you. There's no God up there who's going to throw a lightning bolt your way and make it happen. They are a matter only of man's faith and vision, his desire and acceptance, his, quote, hunger and thirst after righteousness, unquote. If men fulfill their part, the promise is, quote, they shall be filled, unquote. You have put your hand to the plow, so do not look back. You are on the way, and the inward persecution of the warring thoughts of human mind prove it. Listen to that again. And the inward persecution of the warring thoughts of human mind prove it. Press on past the inertial pull of your humanity to the releasement of your divinity. So after I stopped telling that story, saying it out loud, it's one thing to say it in your head, it's another thing to speak it out loud. The throat is the center of power. Whenever you say something out loud, you're almost writing it in stone. You are calling it forth. And so I called that story of insufficiency and unworthiness over and over and over again for decades, 30-some years. And finally I said, I'm done. And then I had to work on who is it I really am. I got a 98 on that test. I excelled at math. I am good at that. In fact, I'm not just good at that, I'm great at that. Who cares about the other 2 points? And if somebody else cared about them, I didn't have to. I had to start talking to myself differently. I had to start saying a new story. I had to be willing to just stop it, shut up, and show up differently. Sometimes we just have to cut the story off. Even if you don't know what to say, that's better. Just stop the old story, right in its tracks. So if you feel it starting to happen, and if you tell the story enough, you tell it the same way every single time, same words. So when you hear that first phrase coming out of your mouth, just stop mid-sentence and sit there. And you can do all kinds of mind treatments if you want. I often use, abort, abort, abort. Danger, Will Robinson. Don't go down that route again. Right? So you may not have a new story yet, but do not repeat the other story. Drop the old baggage and leave it where it is. I'm also reading now this story by Jen Sincero. It's called You Are a Badass.
I received that.
And just like the title, she does not mince words. She does not. In fact, if you don't like certain language, you ought not to read it. It never ceases to amaze me, she says, the precious time we spend chasing the squirrels around our brains, playing out our dramas, worrying about unwanted facial hair, seeking adoration, justifying our actions, complaining about slow internet connections, dissecting the lives of idiots when we are sitting in the middle of a full-blown miracle that is happening right here, right now. If you're stuck in your old story, you can't see what's so wonderful all around you. When are we going to be quiet with the old story and get to the miracles that are right here, right now? Because they're happening all around, and if you're busy shouting your own story, you don't have the opportunity to pay attention to it, to be present, because you're still sitting in the old stuff. There's a great Hindu story about a lady who wanted to meet the god Krishna. So she went into the forest, closed her eyes, and prayed and meditated on making the god appear. And lo and behold, Krishna came wandering down the forest path toward her. But when Krishna tapped the lady on the shoulder, she, without opening her eyes, told him to get lost because she was busy meditating on a very important goal. That's what's happening when you're telling your own story. The things you wanted are circling around you, waiting for you to call it in, and here you are saying, oh, got better things to do. Got to tell my story. My dad said, where's the other 2 points? When greatness was standing right in front of me. waiting for me to call it in. She goes on. The more time you spend in the moment, the richer your life will be. Being present gets you out of your head and connects you to source energy. That's what she calls God. Which raises your frequency, which attracts things like frequency to you. Which attracts things of like frequency to you. And all of those high frequency things and experiences are already here, just waiting for you to join the party. All you have to do is shut up, show up, and usher them in. She is not playing around. So how does that sit with you? Shut up, show up, and usher it in. If we stop just complaining about the stuff and worrying about it and debating it. Why did it happen? What's going on? Oh my gosh, why did he say that? What did my dad mean? I wish he hadn't. I don't know if anything different would have happened in my life if he hadn't said that. Because I was the one who attached that meaning to that statement. It wasn't him. My father loved me dearly and wanted me to be my very best. I ran away with that little banner of unworthiness. Sometimes it's just as simple as cutting it off right here. Doesn't work, stop it. Nothing to think about, nothing to figure out. Shut up, show up, and usher in the miracles. Life is a miracle. We talk about this often, but if you've got the blinders of something else on, here and here, blocking your view of all of it, you'll never see it. And so many people go through life not seeing it. You may know some of them. It may be us. And we go through phases. Sometimes we do it one day, but not the next. We do it for a couple of hours, and then we drop it. You know, you wake up, something hurts, and all of a sudden you're on a negative trajectory for your day. And you lose that consciousness about what is true. Capital T, true. That you are divine essence with the power to call it in right here, right now. And so you can be in the middle of negativity and ugly and feeling insufficient, and in a split second say, this is a miracle and this is my life, and I'm so excited to be here. And go do one thing that gets you closer to something you've dreamed of. It only takes one thing to shift it. But first we got to shut up the old stuff. I know it sounds harsh, but it's true. And sometimes if we say it more delicately, it doesn't work. You know, sit your inner child down.
That doesn't work.
Love her. Say wonderful things to her. I guess that could work. She does say in this book, which I love, I think I laughed out loud when I read this. She said, if I could save one person from inviting their inner child on another play date, I've done my job. And yes, there are times when we have to do that work. Yes, I had to talk to my inner child when I thought again about that story and said, time for me not to say it. And I said, all right, girlfriend, you've had your time, say the story, we're done. Shut up. Showing up is something different because I'm ready to embrace the miracles that are right here, right now. We're at choice in every single second. Every moment, we're at choice. And you can't stop it. You have the power. You are the power. So no matter if you have decades of momentum pushing you towards something negative, put on the brake. And lose the story. And it might feel tenuous at best in the beginning because you're wondering, what's next? What's my new thing? What's my new story? What do I say about me now? It doesn't matter. Sometimes it's better that you say nothing until you allow spirit, your inner soul, your divinity to bring you a new one. And so here we go back into the silence. Oh my God, she's doing it again. Yes, into the silence. Because that's where your soul will bring up the story, the new one. The one that was always being told within you, but you weren't listening. The old story was so loud, you couldn't hear the song of the other story within you. It was always being sung. But we drown them out when we tell something different. We drown it out. So you really don't have to go find the story. It's there. Who you really are is right there, clamoring to get out. That unrest you feel is the story clamoring to get out. And it's trying to get out is these words, the words you've chosen for this year. The reason you chose that word was that there was a part of you that wants that right now. It wants it right now. Right here. It's waiting for you to say, come on, let's go. I'm relinquishing the other story. And now I embrace health, abundance, gratitude, peace, blessedness, awareness, acceptance, love, faith, truth, and all the rest. So let's get quiet so we can hear what's beckoning to come out through you. It's right there. It's right there.